Live.
Damn.
It's like the 1970s movie Network, except without the sweary bit at the start.
I don't think I haven't seen that.
What?
Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
You know the phrase, F it, we'll do it live?
Yes.
Yeah, it's from that.
Okay.
And also, what's the other one? I'm mad as hell and...
Oh, yes. I do know that quote.
Can't remember it. Nah, it's falling out of my head. I don't know.
I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore.
Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well done, Jason. This is why we have you along.
Right.
It's the only reason.
Yeah. And normally we do a bit of pre-show ramble, but I do want to say thank you for jumping on at short notice. This was kind of like unexpected.
I love when things dovetail, and I have a break in the middle of the day where I pick up my kid from school because I'm home, so I can just take a little break. But just ask my wife to do it. It's like I got more important things. I have to happen to stream with Rory and Michael. Very important.
I have to go on the internet with wild boys.
I have to talk with disembodied people and about fun things. No, this was great. Thank you guys so much.
That's all good, bro. It's all good.
Cool.
So we generally kick off with just like rambling stuff and talk about things that we played and things before we go into the meat of what's going down. So Jess, obviously we are still in a weird and wonderful world. Actually, it might be nice actually for folks to know like who you are. Obviously, folks know you from, I would hope, from your Dice Tower work, but also you have your own stuff, Shelf Stories.
Right. So, I mean, maybe not. I mean, this is a new thing for me. I had a podcast for a very long time called Every Night is Game Night. That podcast lasted for 4 years. Very blessed to have that time. You guys were there advertising Untold and advertising Holding On. So, it was great. Pandemic hit. It was just kind of like time anyway to reevaluate what I wanted to do. Got into video. Tom Vassell saw some of my videos and he was, he liked them. So signed on to the Dice Tower. But I want to do more than just talk about games. There's plenty of people. We do not lack for people who are just all about the games. So I'm a psychotherapist in my day job. And I have lots and lots of thoughts about just gamers and the things we kind of struggle with, the anxiety and the depression and the pandemic related stuff and loneliness. So I just have so much to say. So I started my own channel. It is basically a talking head channel, which is what we're doing. I'm trying to improve the technology and the entertainment value, but at the end of the day, it's about the message. And, the message being that, I'm a huge story guy, Rory Story Cubes, obviously. So Shelf Stories kind of came together, and then Shelf Help came together of mental health tips and tricks to help us be happier. And I've been trying to get them shorter. They started off too long, so trying to get them down 10, 15 minutes, even that's too long, but whatever. And, just different topics. And I think the recent one, which Rory interacted with, which is how we connected, was about happiness and the games the things that happiness, what's the relationship, right? Games should make us happy, but that doesn't always happen. So it's like, how does that all work? And, so that's kind of how my journey to today's show.
There you go. Wills and spills. So before we throw into our actual big topic for the day, which is the small question of, do games make us happy?
Right.
So we also, Cole has already come in with the answer, games make us happy, so we can all go home. So it's fine. What in this weird world, this weird pandemic-y world, have you been up to? What have you been playing recently?
Rory knows exactly what I've been playing.
Alter Quest?
I've been playing Alter Quest, yes. So I backed the Kickstarter, got it a little while ago. I had it on a table and it was there for a week unplayed because I just had so much else to do, and just it's a rules monster, and all the Sadler games are kind of rules monsters, and I've played them all, so I have a head start on how the thing works. but like so if people don't know, Alta Quest is a big dungeon crawling type thing with miniatures and big old board, kind of like Hero Quest updated, if you remember Hero Quest, which I never played. I did play Hero Quest, but it was so long ago. And it was very late at night, so I don't really remember. Miniatures and features and bookshelves and monster, all sorts of like stuff. So like it was there for a week, but then I finally kind of cracked it, and it took maybe 3 hours for my first play. So there is a fiddly barrier, right? And so what I like to talk about is like the fiddly to fun ratio. Do I get fun to match the fiddly? Like, does the fiddly enable fun? And thankfully for that game, I found that it did. So I was I actually dig it more than the other two. Treaty Barracks and Brook City. Brook City I actually really like because of the theme. But this one, Alter Quest, like I'm like, okay, where is the expansion? You know, whenever I get to a game and it's like, okay, I want the expansion, I know. Like that's a game I want.
So that's actually kind of a good. We'll come back to it, a lead into the conversation, because I saw Ultra Quest when I was at Gen Con, and I still had Street Masters sitting up on my shelf, and I had played it like once or twice solo. And I did look at Ultra Quest and went, oh my god, that kind of looks like it would scratch the Hero Quest itch in, I think, like the styling of the game and the kind of like exploration aspect of it. But I had to kind of go, again, we'll talk about like needs met and unmet. I was like, I think there'd be so many needs unmet if I was to back that game. Because it would just sit on a shelf with a lot of other stuff. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting, that kind of dynamic, because I think games don't exist in isolation either, which I think is maybe part of that conversation. So I'm being heard twice.
Feedback, which I think is coming from Jason. Jason, have you got any headphones? Handy?
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. Give me 1 second.
Sorry.
Meanwhile, we'll talk about our games.
Okay. So Rory, what have you been up to? What good stuff you've been playing?
Do you know what? I don't think I have been playing anything. I've been painting. I finally, I've been kind of like stalling on getting back into painting some of the Test of Honor figures, and I finally made myself sit down and do it. Because once I start, I enjoy it, but the process of getting started is pretty darn tough. And it was like either that or play Jaws of the Lion, Gloomhaven, and I think I kind of went, I'm probably ultimately going to get more joy from painting the figures longer term than playing Gloomhaven, because I kind of want to play that to have done it. And I also weigh up my mental energy. Like, do I have the mental energy to paint? And so when I do, I get started and try and make the most of that. But maybe tonight when I'm finished, it'll be a bit late, so I might go for Gloomhaven.
I'm just worried, are you going to bounce off Jaws of the Lion like super quickly? Because I don't think you're enamored with it at all.
Well, that's why I'm going, like, it's sat back on the shelf after playing 2 scenarios, and I'm kind of pushing myself to go back and play the other ones to see what magic is there for me to discover. Other than that, I have a whole bunch of games on my shelf that are vying for my attention. So Matt's just asking, I'm talking about Jaws of the Lion, which is the kind of more streamlined version of the game. There's no way I'm ever going to play Gloomhaven. I just do not have enough hours in my life to do that.
It's true, there's a lot there. But it's okay. Ken does have a question. What flavor of paint is your favorite?
What flavor of paint? Well, see, I bought into contrast paints thinking it would speed up my painting, and it hasn't, because I still end up putting tons of detail into my work. So, what's that one? The one that starts with A. It'll come back to me. There's a paint brand that I have. I just buy whatever paint is has the right colors for
yeah,
what
you
I
see
need.
the pretty colors is just like that one. Give me
Yeah.
that and 3 boxes of it.
Well,
Jason, have you done Gloomhaven? Have you been down that road?
I have my copy of Gloomhaven. I played one scenario. It is still on the shelf. It's down there. A ball of potential on the bottom of my shelf over there, just in case.
You say a ball of potential. It's more sort of like, a giant hovering spear of
a coffin of potential.
A coffin of potential.
Which is the biggest oxymoron I could probably say.
The coffin of potential. That's going to be a new D&D item before the night is out. It's going to happen. So I'm trying to think what I've been playing. Oh, sorry. Go.
No, I guess it's funny that you guys mentioned it. It's like, I'm very much like, should I get rid of this or not? I'm really on the fence. Like, I know I'll have fun. I know it's fun. Like, I played on people's copies. That's how I've played, however many times. Had to have it for myself, and I played once. And am I ever going to play this again? Does this game give me enough joy just sitting there? Am I going to play it again? And B, will I be upset if I take it? I have all these feelings.
So many feelings in
all these feelings. So it's complicated right now.
Ken's going to do a Flock of Seagulls goth cover band called Coffee. I'd be there for a half-speed version of Iran. I'd be entirely okay with that. What have I been playing? All right. I have actually been playing stuff this weekend, which was great. I played Root a bit more. This is all digital, by the way, on the Untitled Michael streams. Played a couple of games of Root, failed miserably both times. Still love it. It's fantastic. Tried the digital version of Lords of Waterdeep for the first time ever, and reminded me how much I bloomin' love that game. It's just such a well put together Euro game with the gentlest smattering of a theme on top of it. Plenty of people in the chat were sort of saying, yeah, this could definitely be anything. I think it was actually Matt, the lovely Matt Dunstan, who said, oh no, it might be Matt or it might have been Connor. One of those two was on about you could retheme this as literally anything. So I was like, yeah, just do a sci-fi version of it or something like that. And it's actually amazing that it has not been rethemed yet.
What I will say is I've been a D&D player all my life. I played D&D when I was a kid, and I was not into designer board games. I think the biggest board game I played was Munchkin.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a D&D show in 2012, and they had it before release. There it is, Lords of Waterdeep, play this game. And that was my entry into board games. That was my very first designer board game. If it did not have that theme, I would never have played it.
That's really interesting because it's not a game that is often seen as it's not the gateway for a lot of people. Normally, it's the Holy Trinity, and that's it. But I think it's a fantastically good intro game. It flows beautifully, doesn't outstay its welcome on the table. The digital implementation is very, very good as well. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to taking it out online and trying a few people against it. It'll be all good. Also tried Mass Transit by Chris Leader, which is currently on Kickstarter as part of the Calliope trilogy of games that are on there. Enjoyable, fun, little light game. It's one of those, I won't back the Kickstarter, but if I see a copy of it at a show, I will bully Chris into giving me it. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, just a bit of playtesting this morning as well. Just doing my own stuff and things, which is good stuff.
Nice.
That's right. Yoss, I have not got the Clockwork expansion for Root yet, but probably will crack by the weekend.
I did see Yoss's copy of Prisoner Arena arrive today, so he is very happy. Okay. So they are appearing out in the wild as of today.
Very good.
It's kind of exciting.
Good. Yeah, it's cool. All right, let us stop this rambling. Let's draw a line beneath it, and let me put this here, because no longer pre-show rambles. Done. Still the Hangout, though.
We need to get into serious talk.
Yeah, serious business. All right, so we were talking about this earlier. Rory and I, we met up, and Rory was sort of talking to me about this potential topic for a thing. I came home, I watched Jason's videos about it. over on the Shelf Stories channel on YouTube, please go and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Smash that bell. That's what all the kids say, I believe.
Give me my dopamine hit. That's what I need.
That's true. There's nothing more satisfying when you get that extra little one single digit popping up and popping up and popping up. But yeah, so we're talking about, do games make us happy? And when Rory sort of like said the topic to me, I was like going, what? Why are we going to get all psychological on this? And then I watched your videos, Jason, and it was just sort of like, oh yeah, because Jason actually has a background in this kind of thing and is super intelligent.
Yeah.
But I also got to thinking about all of my games as well, and do they make me happy and blah blah blah. So Rory, give us the why. Why did you want to cover this?
Because I'd watched Jason's video, and I think the summation of it was, buy games if they make you happy. And part of me was like, there's more to it than that.
The first video.
And
first video. Right.
And so I kind of commented and said, well, I think of things from my training, which is nowhere near as extensive as Jason's, but it's in conflict resolution and something called nonviolent communication, which looks at how essentially everything we do is an attempt to meet a need. But we can also do things that at the same time as meeting certain needs, we're also not meeting other needs. And that can kind of create internal conflict and, stresses. And they're like strategies. The things we do are strategies to meet needs, but there's also multiple strategies to meet those needs. So kind of like buying games and playing games would be considered a strategy to meet a need, but there's other ways you can meet those needs potentially. And so I was in my head, I was like, it's a bit more gray than that. And I thought it would be interesting to kind of delve into that grayness a little bit more and maybe give people a broader kind of almost like vocabulary or way of looking at their game shelf as well. And I guess I do it a lot. I'm in a house with people who aren't that interested in games, and my games are taking up space, So there's all of this stuff going on. It's not just about the game. There's all these other dynamics happening.
Right.
And my own experience with nonviolent communication helps me to kind of like break apart what's going on in my head and the things I'm feeling as well, and to move past shoulds, which is that's the one aspect I totally agree with Jason on, the idea of trying to eliminate should from our vocabulary. I think I just wanted to talk about that, and by sheer luck, Jason was available and was kind of willing to jump on. So I think
I also posted a second part too, so to speak, kind of responding to that. So I will say, so if you haven't seen it, the first Shelf Out video was a lot of them. What I try to do is I try to respond. I want to see what conversations are happening. It's like, okay, how can I kind of take what this seemingly random comment and kind of lift it up and, for more people. So the particular comment that sparked this one, I'll give shout out Martin Gonzalez, who may not be watching, but he's a frequent forum poster and becoming a good friend. So his thing was, how did he exactly put it? Like someone had like posted, some kind of shitty thing. It's like,
it was the I don't know who needs to hear this, but
right. I don't know who hears this, but if you have a bunch of unplayed games, you should stop buying them. It's something to that effect. And Martin, because he's a wisecracker, he says, I did the right thing. He made me feel stuff. So in response, I muted him and I bought another game. So okay, good on you, man. But it is something I've seen before, and in my experience, like I do a lot with shoulds. So like there's that shouldy that you get from somebody else, but we also should ourselves. Right? So, I should play this more. I should, hold off on this purchase for now, or all this stuff when it comes to games. And I think my first video was a direct salvo against that particular. And as with any good conversation, it kind of like broadens out. So like when Rory saw it, I don't think, Rory, when you saw it, tell me if I'm wrong, you didn't have that context. You were just like, okay, this is an interesting topic and I'm going to listen to it.
I didn't know the full backstory. I know you'd mentioned that it had been in response to something that had happened, and the idea of people being told they should, play their games.
And so, like, so then I said, you know what? It's a direct salvo against the shoulds. Play all, buy whatever you want, do whatever makes you happy. Buy games if it makes you happy. So then, it's like, and so Rory asked a good question, and you're not the only one. I've had a lot of other people in different other aspects of it. I was like, well, what if it doesn't make you happy, or what if, right? So then I posted another video this morning, kind of clarifying the joy that games can bring and the joy that they can't, right? So there's a definite 2-level thing going on, and I think the TLDR version is, like happiness is one of those big words that it's so big it doesn't really mean. Like, it's like, what does it really mean? Like love, like I love my Coke and I love my wife. Clearly, these are 2 different things, but we call the same thing. Happiness is the same way. So so I try to distinguish like joy, like my life is good and I have a bonus. This is better. My life is awesome, and I've done all these. I'm flourishing because I'm flourishing just a little bit more because I have this game. Great. But to Rory's point, when you're trying to meet a craving, a need, that's when the game buying can be very difficult. So I tried to kind of split that hair, and I wanted to kind of get the conversation going that way.
So actually, I was looking through all the comments, and it was very interesting to see the amount of people who had jumped in, and it was almost like, I feel very attacked. I'm in this picture. I don't like it. It was very, very sort of like interesting to see like that folks were seeing your video as a comment and not necessarily a positive comment on them. And these are like complete strangers, just folks who just watch what you say, and it's like, how dare you make this judgment about me? It's just like, mate, I'm not making a judgment about you. It's just this is just what we're saying, and we're instilling this conversation. So I found it very, very interesting indeed. And I'm delighted to have you on, obviously, as well, Jason. No, I know we've only got you for a short period as well, so we should probably race as much as we can to wring as much information out of you as we possibly can.
I got a 245 client.
So, Rory, do you want to take the lead on this one for a little bit and sort of like steer the conversation?
Okay, so as you know, Michael, because you bear the brunt of this quite a lot when we're traveling, I trained with Dr. Marshall Rosenberg in nonviolent communication. I got to participate in an international intensive where people were brought from around the world, and the idea was that you would train in this and bring it back to where you lived and kind of share it. And living in Northern Ireland, I was picked because I was doing cross-community work here with teenagers and adults and ex-prison officers. And so he developed it in response. He grew up in Detroit with the race riots as a kid. And he'd always ask the question, like, how come some people like in life get kind of, I suppose, really struggle, and others seem to, no matter what's going on around them, they seem to be able to kind of flow through life. And he wanted to develop essentially a tool that he could pass on to people. After kind of interviewing and talking to people, he discovered it was kind of, they were able to do this kind of thing, this process that he wanted to make really accessible to people. So so everybody, this is going to be like a little lesson here, but hopefully it will prove.
Yeah,
literally. Hang on. So I'm going to bring this up.
This is also because Rory knows that psychologically Michael is what you could deem as a mess and is here to try
I'm just going to check.
Repair this boy.
No, never. That's not the point. Okay, so this was a little wallet guide I created with Anita actually back in like 2005 or 6 as part of our kind of creativity training that we used to do. Because it was almost like an emergency first aid thing. But just to summarize it, Nonviolent Communication he had developed these 4 steps. So when something happens, you make an observation that is free of evaluation, right? And I'll kind of go through each one of these in sequence and kind of related to kind of board games. After you make that observation, you check to see what feelings it evokes for you. And those feelings basically are indicating needs that are or are not being met for you. And so the really interesting thing is needs are universal. And if you can connect with those needs, from a conflict resolution perspective, it's really powerful if you can look beyond behavior to what needs someone's trying to meet, because then you start to kind of connect at a human to human level and kind of drop the labels. So the idea then is with those feelings, you try to identify, again, the needs that are being met or unmet. And as a way to try and get those needs met, you make a request, either to yourself or to someone else. And there's definitely a kind of a very structured way to do this. So it seems quite mechanistic, but it's like, if I had to kind of forget everything in my life and remember one thing, NVC is it. Like, it has saved me money. It's helped make me money. It's saved relationships. It's helped me kind of let go of stuff that I've been kind of carrying as well, by giving me a lens to kind of look back on situations as well. And I describe it like verbal aikido. You don't get caught up in stuff to the same degree. So the way it kind of breaks down is you start with an observation. So in this case, it might be when I look at my game collection, or when I see this new Kickstarter, or, when I look at this particular game. So I was going to ask, do you want to give this a go, Michael, and see how it kind of...
We all know that I am not going to get bullied into this, but yeah, I will do it because I'm always willing to try stuff.
It's a choice. And, and I will frame it from when I see a lot of, so I'll kind of use it myself, I guess. When I see a lot of communication happening online, especially in the kind of gaming communities, like, I actually feel really sad because I see these missed opportunities for connection and understanding between people. And so I kind of keep threatening to myself that I'll run some kind of workshop on this at Gen Con or Origins or something, just because it helps you not get caught up in a lot of the chatter that happens online. Okay, so if we start with an observation of... All
right, guide me, Sensei, I am here.
Oh, no. So when I see, when I hear, when I imagine, when I think, the important thing is it's free of evaluation. So you think of it like what a camera would record. Okay, so it's not like when I see in relationships, it might be when when you lied to me. It's like, well, that's not really an observable thing.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So it has to be an observable thing. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. How about I choose something like my favorite game, like Acquire? Yeah. Okay. So when I see my 1999 Avalon Hill plastic explosion copy of Acquire, I feel...
Okay, so we'll jump to the next sheet. So there's essentially, and this is all taken from cnbc.org, which is the Center for Nonviolent Communication. They have basically created a list of feelings that are evoked when needs are being met, and feelings that are being evoked when needs aren't being met. And I've run workshops on this before, where I just get people to make a list, like when you see or think about this thing, and you make 2 columns, and you write what feelings are evoked by needs met and needs unmet. And it's because I like to make things as pragmatic as possible. So, okay, so when you think about that copy of Acquire sitting on your shelf, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what feelings does it evoke? Looking at this list, and you can kind of start with the headings, essentially, which are like affectionate, confident, engaged.
Okay, so if I go from the top of the list, working my way down, it's going to sound, in my opinion, a little strange, but I feel affectionate because the game, it reminds me of good times with good friends. So I would take warm as one of those.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Go down a little bit further. Under the engaged category, I actually might put fascinated because I'm intrigued by the mechanisms of the game. I've played it hundreds of times, but it's still a game that remains fresh and fun for me. And that could actually spill over to the inspired thing for a little bit of wonder, I guess.
Right. Like I'm actually, this is another video I'm gonna do. Sorry to interrupt, but like it's like if you when you think about a game, right? Like you can get the similar feeling of like walking into the Taj Mahal or walking into something that has like just something that awes you and wows you, like your Sistine Chapel or whatever. And that sounds weird to talk about a game, but like a well-designed game is like a lattice work of pushes and pulls and goals and it's like everything kind of hums together and you can really get into that. Like you can really struck. You know, like I remember I played Dead of Winter and I was teaching it, and one of the they did terribly, like they lost their faces off, and it was terrible. Everybody lost, but they were staring at the game, going, "Oh my god, like, people do this." Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that is a perfect example of. I mean, yeah, for me, a beautifully created mechanism like something like Acquire. It will make me feel the same sort of thing as seeing, an incredible piece of art or, hearing an incredibly evocative piece of music. So if I go down the list a little bit more, I'm going to, from the excited bit.
Okay.
Oh, go on. No, go on.
No, I was going to say the thing I really like, I personally really love about this is that we worked with kids, teenagers here in Belfast, and we used to joke because there are two emotions where I feel sweet and I feel shite. Like that was the extent of the kind of emotional vocabulary. You go, how are you feeling? Sweet, shite. So for me, learning this has been really helpful to get that nuance. Like, had you ever thought about the game Acquire in that way?
I mean, not really. It's I've thought about it as done the traditional game designer thing of like, oh, it's such an elegant design, but I've never really thought about it in how it makes me feel.
Yeah, and I think it's that thing of it's actually evoking multiple feelings, so it's meeting a bunch of different needs. Like each feeling is connected to a potential need as well. Sorry, so I mean, I think if we get kind of 3 or 4 is enough, and then we'll kind of move on.
All right, so all right, so we've gone for warm.
Was it fascinated?
Fascinated was one. Wonder was one, and also, I mean, excited. But I'm trying to sort of like, I mean, I think eager or no, enthusiastic, because it's a game that I love to share with other people.
Okay. So I should really be writing these down. Hang on a second. Let me find something to write on.
So professional.
I know, this is so warm. What did we say? Wonder?
Fascinated.
No, fascinated.
Yeah. Wonder.
And eager.
Enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic.
Eager. Yeah, either's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know there was that many feelings out there. And that's what I found really fascinating, because we also kind of mix up feelings and needs together, and this is a really helpful way of extracting actually what's the bodily sensation that you're getting. So let's check this list.
Most of my feelings are just anger most of the time, as people will say. So
is there anything here on this list when you think about Acquire?
This is going to sound, I'm preempting everything with this is going to sound weird. There is a tiny speck, 0.1% of resentful in there. Because it's like, God damn it, I'm never going to be able to make something as good as that. But it's like a really sort of like respectful resentfulness, I guess, because it's like, Sid Saxton was a legendary designer, and he was there from very sort of like early days. He was making stuff in the 60s, and they're still being played now. And it is a strange thing, I think, to say, but there is like my God, I'm never going to be that good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with that.
So, Michael, you are glitching, as Ken puts it. I don't know whether it's just the time of day and all the internet access that's happening in our part of the world. So I might ask you to repeat stuff. But
Yeah, okay.
I think we're okay so far. Okay, so yeah, I think that makes sense, actually. I'd be surprised, to be honest, if you didn't get something from that list as well. I'm kind of wondering as well, is there like under, I guess, well, in terms of like sadness about like not getting to play the game when you look at it?
I mean, obviously, like right now, in our world that we find ourselves in, yeah, pretty much nothing I have downstairs is getting played. But I don't feel particularly sad about it because I know it is going to get played again in the future.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Just wanted to throw it out there. It's not to kind of force it on or anything. Okay, so we'll jump to the needs list. Okay, so I'll kind of go through each of the feelings and see which need it kind of connects with. And again, there's large kind of headings: autonomy, connection, honesty, peace, physical well-being, play, meaning. And I think some of these have been kind of shortened a little bit. But what you'd be looking at is whether the need is met or unmet. And usually you can tell it by the different kind of feeling. So if we look at that kind of feeling of being, feeling warm when you think about that copy of Acquire, what need is it kind of, do you think, is it meeting for you?
I would say it's kind of, must it just be one or can it be a couple?
Well, it can be a couple, actually, I think.
All right, so I think play is going to, like, the joy of play is just, it's there, but also the idea of challenge.
Okay.
Because, it's not just me versus the other players, it's me versus the game itself, the game systems.
Cool. So in terms of fascinated then?
That's tricky. I think to know, like I it's the pursuit of knowledge thing, I think, and that is very important to me. Understanding a system, trying to break it, yeah.
And then that feeling of wonder.
This is gonna sound weird. It's the one under the piece. It's beauty, but it's not. It's not because it is a. It's like you were saying earlier, Jason. It's not. It's not the look of the thing. Although I've got to say, it is the best version. It looks like an explosion of plastic spectra. But it is you scratch the surface, and whatever version of the game you play, it is just so pure. And I'm going to take beauty for there for sure. Also, actually, a bit of inspiration as well, because I'll be super honest. Without that game, I probably wouldn't design my own stuff.
Okay. And so eager. So you had that feeling of eagerness.
Is there inclusion? I was going to say, is there something sharing there? Yeah, inclusion, belonging. Because I know that game inside out, so I can sort of sit down with anybody, explain it without a rule book, and show people how much that game means to me. I hope.
So would contribution kind of fall under that?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And then, so you had the one kind of feeling where it wasn't being met, which was resentful. Or some resentment.
Yeah, a little bit of resentment. authenticity.
I noticed the word mastery is not on here. Like mastery is a really well recognized, just to master something.
Yeah, actually, it might have got cut.
Like
well, we were trying to edit for space.
Right.
Yeah.
But like the desire to be good at something, the desire to be great at something, and I could see a situation where like you see something that's in your field, and it's like I will never be that. I will never reach that height of mastery.
I guess it's under to some extent, but it's not quite accurate. Is either efficacy or competence.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of halfway between the two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I totally agree. I think the need for that sense of mastery, or even like a sense of knowing and control over the world, is that's where mastery over the world. But we tried to do it in games. I think is a big thing that happens with playing games. Cool. So so again, you might want to make a request, but I think in this case, it's more just a case of kind of acknowledging like the range of things that happen. Like that's just one game sitting on your shelf, and how it's kind of meeting so many needs, and it's one that has kind of positive memories. There's probably ones I could look on my shelf and my feelings of needs not being met would far outweigh the list of needs. I think
we all have those.
Yeah, but to me, the point is having this vocabulary is, I find it really, really helpful, because I'm just going to jump back to the screen. So, Jason, you had responded to someone who says, they kind of suffer from compulsive kind of buying sometimes with games. And this is where I fall foul of that, because the sense of immediate needs being met outweighs, I don't stop long enough to think about what needs won't be met by me doing that thing. But if I can just stall myself for a second, I try to do this. I try to weigh up what needs would be met and what needs would not be met by that purchase, and just that moment of space between, like, you'll relate to this, Jason, thought and action. If you can create like a gap in between there, hopefully it'll help you to kind of tilt things more often than not meeting needs rather than not meeting needs.
It's funny. Like you never, things are never done, right? I wish I had put some of this stuff in my other video. I might have to make a third video. Who knows?
The trilogy completed.
Just keep on going. Well, I think I should let it lie. But what's striking me is the difference between a need and a craving. So a craving is exactly that. A craving just it obliterates the distinction between thought and action. It obliterates our ability to kind of meet long-term needs, and it just makes it about the now. I must meet this need now. And so like needs is a funny word for me. I kind of like kind of associate needs and cravings in a sense, like a want versus a need, like a lot of what you described is like a want or a desire, a wish. And then a need is more along the lines of craving. So just to kind of like get, again, we're clarifying vocabulary. Yeah. I think we can go with the craving sense of need and just like distinguish that from what you're talking about and how we get cravings. I mean, that's what we're about that, so much of mental health is about, we have these cravings for security, for belonging, for all these, and they rise above need to become the thing that we can't let go of, and when you're in that trap, that's exactly when games can really not just like not make us happy, but can actually fuel some fires that we might not want to fuel.
And I suppose the way I would look at it is, so the needs are like the base level of things that, like, there's no, again, evaluation associated with it. They're just things that as human beings we're constantly trying to meet in different ways.
Yeah, like I need water.
It's right. When they get amplified and become intense, because part of this, when I was kind of training this and in this, I would look and go like, why is it that need keeps coming up for that person? Like, it seems like it's a bottomless pit. Like, you just can't, no matter what they do or how you might help to try and contribute to meeting that need, it's always temporary. and then it comes back up. And so I would recognize it in myself. The need for ease is something that just never gets fully addressed for me. It's like it's always a temporary thing. And so playing games meets my need for ease, for kind of play and ease. And it's a temporary thing. It's like it'll do it for a bit, but you always then feel like, I'm empty again. And that's partly why I buy games, because I look at a game and I imagine it's going to meet my need for kind of play and ease by escaping into that game space. It's why I kind of enjoy the solo gaming side of things. But it's having that awareness of, like you said, that sometimes, not because of the here and now, there's needs that are kind of almost like amplified in us, and they kind of drown out the other needs as well. And that's where we, I think, make those choices that in attempting to meet that need, because it's shouting so loud, all these other needs don't get met, or we take actions that are going to ensure other needs don't get met. And it's that like hiding of games when you buy them and stuff like that.
I think that is the essence of what, like when we say we're in a consumer society, that's kind of the essence of what that means. Like what do the people who sell goods want? They want to get an action from us, right? Buy the thing. And if we think twice about it, we're less likely to do the action. So a good marketer will flood the zone with distress. Like we'll flood the zone with, okay, you need this in your life in order to X, Y, Z. You're ugly. You need to dress yourself up. You're not having as much fun as your other friends who have this new hot game. So you need this. Look, stretch goal. Look, and it floods the zone with this stuff. And when we're not on our guard, we buy it. We just buy it buy the thing, but also just kind of accept
we buy into it.
Yeah, you accept the mental framework that like, I need this, like this is, and I need it now. a big button now.
I think Michael can attest to this. I think that's why I personally struggle with Kickstarters of kind of running them, because they are dependent on a sense of like false urgency for people in a number of cases, because you want to get those people to back it. So it's that the promise of the dopamine kick. And I think Rich Gain captured it really well. He said, it's that thrill of waking up the next morning and seeing that tally going up and seeing what new stretch goal has come. Again, it kind of meets all these needs for excitement and adventure and to matter, because it's like, hey, I'm making this game happen. The narrative.
Is it not very strange? So, I mean, speaking to both of you who have training in psychological areas, etc., as somebody who does not, but who has obviously a wide knowledge of the gaming industry, we know in our heart of hearts that literally every single stretch goal on pretty much every single campaign has been planned out to the nth degree. They know exactly how much it is. We know that it's going to get that at the end of the thing. We know that all of these things are going to be included in that game, regardless. So why, as humans, are we, dare I say it, so gullible to fall into this trap of the rat pushing the button and getting a feed pellet, and then pushing it again and getting the feed pellet?
I mean, like, you ask any Kickstarter creator, what is the secret sauce of a successful Kickstarter? And it's not like the stretch. It's not necessarily. That's not the last thing you think of, the stretch goals and the excitement and everything. What they'll say is you need to build a community. Your game needs to have an audience built in before anything, and then it needs to kind of carry forward that audience while the project is happening. So having like a gamified element, now we have like a countdown and we have a reason to tune in and be excited. And it's, so like you're giving people dopamine hits, but like people are talking about it, like, ooh, when are we going to hit the next stretch goal? When are we going to do this? So like we say like all these bad things, right? So like Facebook is bad, but like we all use it because we get all the stuff out of it. So like we're not going to get rid of Facebook. We're just going to try to mitigate the worst. I think, stretch goals in their own smaller way kind of do the same thing. They generate excitement in the community. We turn that excitement into community, and into attachment and into like, you know, and they're in the best, most kind of the best version of it, you know, an attachment to the creator itself. Like we feel attached to the creator, like we're rooting for him. Yeah, you know. I just I backed Hoop Gods. Hoop Gods is a Board Game Brothers project, and I backed Hoop Gods and Rap Gods. I went in kind of the whole thing, and I'm rooting for Amari. I'm rooting for the designer. Like he's doing something that's really important, making black board games, making, you know, self-funding and starting from scratch. Like I want him to succeed real bad, and having like direct feedback, like ding, ding, ding. Oh, okay, here we go. It's just like it's not just kind of this undifferentiated sense of excitement. Like I am now on a journey with him as he dings those things. So, you know, like the best things, you know, blessings and curses. I can understand the curse part, but understanding the blessing too is really important.
No, it's interesting because you get that vibe. I mean, Amari's freaking great.
Such a dear guy.
He's awesome. Like an absolutely beautiful person, and just innovative and freaking nimble and clever. And I'm gutted that I do not have the money to back the campaign because I had to buy a new computer. But you know, the moment I get to see him in real life, I'll see them in real life at some point and go, please take my money. I would like a copy of Rap Gods immediately. Thank you very much. You know that's going to happen. But then I can see why you get that vibe with a project like something like Hoop Gods, because, you know, Amari is personable and is there, you know, is in the project at the very moment, you know, all the way. Then you look at something like this latest month's Big Minis Explosion Extravaganza from Simon, yet another faceless thing that looks exactly the same as the other thing that they did 3 months ago. And yeah, that might sound a bit bitchy, but there you go. Such is life. I find Simon games pretty boring. But where's what you see Hoop Gods, which, you know, just about managed to get to like 46,000 quid or something like that. And then every month Simon are pulling in $1 million plus thing. Is that because of the people who are going for it are happy, or is it almost sort of like a slavish cult of the new thing, which Ken has mentioned cult of the new in the chat? I don't know. It's disappointment for me, basically. I want to see people like Amari succeed, but all I'd see most of the time is something like Seymour hoovering up all the cash.
So I'll jump in quickly because I want to get a reply from Jason. I know he has to go soon. One of the things I learned with training with Marshall was that as human beings, we generally have a desire to contribute to the well-being of others if we can be given kind of clear actions of how we can do that. And I think when Kickstarter is at its best is it gives a clear indicator to someone of like, contributing to this would really, you know, meet so many needs for me to be seen, to, you know, and meets your need to contribute as well. So I think there's that aspect with a project like Amari and Hoop Gods. I think some other Kickstarters, they meet needs for stimulation because of the thrills that happen. And I was kind of looking back over my list. There isn't a need for value, but I think there is something about that. No, but I'm trying, like, this is where I tie myself up and kind of knots where I'm trying to figure out, like, what's that need? It's that, like, I'm trying to get, there's this idea of, like, risk of missing out or the promise of getting the best deal possible in this moment. And I haven't actually quite, I was just looking through the list trying to parse, like, what is that need? Because it's, it might be like, again, it might be a efficacy of like getting the best out of this moment that I'm not going to get elsewhere. There's also needs, I think, for belonging, you know, being part of that thing. But I think stimulation is a big part, and that kind of efficacy of, well, I backed it early and I got the deal rather than I backed it later. Whereas for me, I've kind of realized I don't play the expansions for the games that I get because they make the game unwieldy. So for me, for a lot of Kickstarters, if I see expansions with it, I'm like, well, actually, I might just wait and buy the game in a store. but I have to catch myself because, oh my God, the stimulation of like an excitement is so high. I have to like literally just go, remind me in like 48 hours time. So I don't like if I still really need to back it, then I will at that point. But I've actually done pretty well recently with that approach. But Jason, what do you think? What's that need that's being met in terms of backing the bigger projects?
I mean, belonging. There's that. All the cool kids are doing it, right? And that's
board games. None of us are cool.
Okay, so I think of it like, okay, so they've run this experiment, many versions of the experiment, many times. So like, you put 10 primates, like gorilla, orangutan, something like that. You put them in a room, you give them all cucumbers, they're all happy, right? So then you run the same experiment, same primates. You give 9 of them cucumbers and 1 of them a grape. And now all of a sudden, the cucumber's not good enough because the grape is so delicious. It's like, what? Get out of this! I don't want this cucumber. Get out of here! They're throwing it up to the screen and they're going all crazy. It's basically like, it's unfair. And I can see a project with that much just bling and that much minis to paint and a brand. Like there's a whole at this point we're kind of selling on brands. So like even if the individual project isn't cool, like the brand is cool. So there's all this stuff, right? And then we get this this inner, and it's at the primate level. We get the sense that like I want to have that. I want to have the grape. I don't want to be stuck with my cucumber. But even though it's a perfectly good fruit, and if there was nothing but cucumbers, I'd be perfectly happy. Like I acquire a cucumber at this point. It's old and it's simple and it's but
Jason, I will fight you. I will come to your house. I will fight you. I will hit you with a cucumber and I will fight you. No, I understand what you mean entirely, though. It's like, yeah.
But, the sense of belonging, the sense of, just kind of, wanting to be part of the big, sexy thing. Again, that meme, what is that? That popular meme that does 10 million times, the boy and the girl together, and the girl, and there's another cuter girl walking, and, it's the cuter girl. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if she's right for me. I don't know if she could be a hot mess, but just like that instant, she's the cuter girl. Ooh. It's so natural, I wish I had a better kind of more, but we're on some level, we are really shallow people. We want the delicious thing. And skate companies like CMON are good at adding other stuff and putting excitement around it and putting sheen on it. And, these people are, when they want our money, they're really good at knowing what will kick our dopamine centers the highest.
Mm-hmm. I think I find that promise, especially with the kind of mini-based games, it's like, oh my God, there's so much stuff for me to play with and paint. And
right.
I'm I'm still trying to work through the figures from Myth, which I backed in 2015. I still haven't finished painting those ones. And that's kind of my warning about minis in games.
So I need to go. I have a client waiting. So if this was awesome, please don't hesitate to invite me on. And I would like to have you guys on at some point on my show.
That'd be awesome. I was expecting you to say, please don't ask me to come and my needs have not been met.
Show me if I invite you on, I want you to have a cucumber in hand and just wave it at me.
Dude, I'm going to get your address and I'm going to have Amazon Prime groceries send you a cucumber.
One.
Just one. It's going to cost me a fortune, but it's going to happen.
$50 shipping for 1 10-cent cucumber.
Yeah, it'd be worth it. My needs for being an idiot have been met.
Michael, stop talking. Go see your clients.
Thank you very much in the chat. We will definitely not be strangers. Take care.
Yeah, take care. Bye. We've lost Michael as well. He's gone. Oh, I wonder if I don't think we finished the call. I think he's coming back.
I am back.
This is where I start talking and rambling. I was like, have you decided that the call is over? And
yes, I'm finished now. I'm going. My needs have been met. I'm leaving.
My work here is done. I think there was one other thing I wanted to touch on, but I think that's kind of that case of Acquire is a really good example of how one thing is actually meeting multiple needs, and also maybe like not meeting needs at the same time. And like in that respect, one of the feelings in that list, which I learned about, and it's become really, really effective for me, is mourning. Oh no, I think there's a need for mourning. So I feel sad. You can feel sad about something, because you have a need to actually mourn the absence of something, and this goes like it ties back into like our work on holding on, but in terms of we can have like a game that meets needs but also doesn't meet needs. So I might look at say Myth, for example, or where I'm mourning the fact that it takes longer to set up than I would like, or I don't get a chance to play it with other people. So I have a need, for ease and play with others. It's not a binary thing. It doesn't mean I have to get rid of the game because it evokes these like, feelings in me. Mourning is this idea of just acknowledging something that it's like, yeah, I kind of wish it was another way. It's not. I'm going to mourn that fact, but I'm not going to attempt to change it. And that's kind of the point of death. You can't change it, but you can mourn the fact that things are the way they are.
Yeah, I think you can't change, but you can accept. I think that's probably the sort of like the route you're trying to go down.
Yeah, and it's trying to move away from in our language, guilt and blame and shame are like big things of how we're kind of like we are controlled or we control other people through in this kind of false way. So and that ties back to Jason's comment about someone saying you should play your games. That like, so the person who's talking about Martin, it's kind of like, well, I can mourn the fact that I'm not getting to play my games, but it doesn't mean that I should as well. And I find that I find the use of mourning really helpful when I look at my collection behind me, especially right now, because I can like look at it and it evokes lots of sadness for my need for value. That word again of like, getting value from what I've bought, but also the missed experiences with people.
I mean, I think so. I sit downstairs on the couch on Monday night, which was normally like, our regular games night down at down at the local bar or whatever. And I sit there and I look at all those games that are on my shelves, and I do feel a sense of sadness. I think a sense of mourning, because it. And again, I preface it once again. It's going to sound strange, but it is a sense of these things are not fulfilling their potential, and that makes me sad. These non-sentient boxes full of cardboard and plastic and bits of wood are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that is a very strange way of looking at a games collection, I think. But it's how I look at my games collection. And other people are going to look at their games collections in completely different ways. It's strange.
You've said like, you kind of joke about not being in touch with your feelings, but that like a lot of people, if they feel sadness, they try to run from it or suppress it. So the fact that you're kind of just that idea of acknowledging it and kind of letting it go is a healthy, I think, approach. To that.
Okay, so I want to bring us back to a conversation that you and I had a couple of weeks ago, standing outside General Merchants in Belfast. And it's sort of like, Jesus, look at us here talking about our feelings and everything. And it's like, I, a few years ago, would never feel comfortable talking about, oh, I am sad today. Why am I sad today? Oh, I'm feeling happy today. Why am I happy today? But as I've gotten a bit older and realized that there is nothing really to be gained from hiding such stuff away, or rather not talking about such stuff, it might make other people uncomfortable. I know for a freaking damn fact, anytime I start talking about feelings to either of my parents, they're going to hang up the phone because they're just not built for that. But I can talk to other people. I can talk to you. I can talk to friends. I can talk to other members of my family. Because I know that discussing such things is healthy, and that's a good, that's a good thing. Recognizing such things are, it's good. And honestly, a lot of that has only come from relatively recent stuff, but from doing therapy and talking to a professional about such stuff. It's like, it's okay to feel feelings. And this is a very weird sort of road that I've gone down, considering this thing is about, hey, do board games make you happy? But it's all rolled into one big thing, I think.
See, this is my secret plan, Michael. No, not targeted at you, but to kind of, in a way, have this conversation about that breadth of feelings and needs as a vocabulary for people, because we can use it to talk about games, but the stuff that we're saying applies to a lot of other, like everything I was saying about nonviolent communication and that framework applies throughout all areas of life. And it's a really helpful approach. Like I'm kind of watching the chat, which I want to come back to. But just to give some context, like for me, I grew up like just incredibly emotional. Like the slightest thing would set me off. And I used to fly into rage as a 7-year-old. And I actually remember at one point saying, I have to suppress this because it's getting me into difficulty. And I made a decision, I'm never going to be angry again. And
that's a very powerful decision for a child to make.
Yeah, I remember I was probably in like senior infants in school. So it would have been like 6, 7 maybe. And so it's been very hard for me to, like, it didn't actually hide my anger. It just made it leak out in lots of other like unhealthy ways. But that's where for me, whilst learning NVC with the notion of helping other people, it actually helped me so much more. And in my relationship with my children, my partner, and the business, because you've seen how I deal with the issues that arise in the business as well, for better or worse. But I at least know I'm kind of trying to do my best in those contexts. And I think this is what I'm getting to, it's not like I was always in touch with feelings either. There's like a point comes in your life where I think you say, this isn't working for me. Like now there's so many needs not being met for me. I need to figure out a different way. And one of those things is having that vocabulary. We just don't have the language for it because it's not taught. So kind of accessing that vocabulary of the spectrum of emotions and the fact that like these are universal needs that we're all trying to meet. Kind of, for me, makes me go, oh, I'm not such a like wreck. I'm just like, I'm fumbling my way through life and I don't always do it, the way I would like. But hey, I can mourn the fact that I didn't, behave in the way. Lots of my emails open with, I'm mourning the fact that I didn't respond as quickly as I would have liked.
I mean, this is going to be a weird tangent before we jump back into the chat, but remember when the Marie Kondo show on Netflix first popped and everybody was like buzzing about it, and it's like, does this spark joy? And there were so many people who were very, very quick to jump on the piss-taking wagon of the idea of, if a thing doesn't spark joy, thank it, get rid of it. But really, I found that was a very powerful thing, because it was like, it was recognizing emotions attached to items, to things that people owned. And I'm not going to attach the emotions that I discussed earlier about Acquire to all of my games. As a matter of fact, I go through a cull pretty regularly and get rid of a whole bunch of things every once in a while. In fact, there's probably going to be another cull this week, which is great. But yeah, the idea of people sort of seeing the recognition of an emotion attached to an item being a joke, I found not offensive, but I found it, man, that's pretty weak. Like if you actually recognize this emotion, you'd feel better about things. You'd feel better about yourself. But, for, dare I say it, our generation, a lot of people still can't and will actually actively refuse to.
And that's where I think, I would look at that and imagine maybe the when those people hear that conversation about joy, they feel discomfort or uncomfortable because a certain need for them isn't being met. So I would try to guess, I wonder what's going on for them when they hear, Marie Kondo talk about joy. Like, if they're reacting in that way, what need isn't being met for them? Or quite often it's like, what are they yearning for that they're not getting? But again, it takes, we've had this conversation, it's trying to take it away from, those idiots or those, whatever, to see the human and them striving for something as well. But in a way that kind of doesn't meet our needs, because that happens. I think I haven't actually watched her stuff, but I think, distilling it into joy is a really effective hook for people. But it'd be great to go, okay, when I feel joy, what needs is it meeting for me? And just going that step further with that conversation yourself, because I think the joy, lots of things need evoke joy, but it's like, what need is it meeting? Because they can come in different ways, and having that kind of clarity, I think, would help them with that filtering process. Anyway,
to the chat, let us discuss things that people have been talking about. So Ken says, Rory, Michael, and I need to have like a 3-hour video chat about feelings. I mean, like a 3-hour private one, then a 3-hour public one. Never going to happen. Maybe the private one. We'll see what Dr. O'Connor his rates are going to be.
No, I'm very aware. I've attended the School of Life. I don't have the qualifications that Jason has. I think mine has just been like up against the, how do you phrase it? They've been tested in the real world, and that's why I stand by the stuff that I've learned.
So we won't go into why you're having a rough time emotion. Obviously, many of us know why it's a really, really crappy year for you. But this is very interesting. COVID made everything better for me because there's more emotional support available online than there was before. And I can actually see that there has been a bit of an outpouring recently. Like, there is a very tight community of folks, like especially in like our little weird board gamey world. There is a very tight community who are here for people, who are supportive for each other. And yeah, sometimes you might not have the spoons for the, to handle the mental load to help someone out. But it does feel like there's always going to be someone who is willing to sort of like be there, which is great. And I'm not just talking about hey, it's 3:00 in the morning and I post on Twitter, God, I'm insomniac again and I feel miserable and sad. And then somebody goes, pat, poor Michael. It's more like, people will message you. People will say, people will call and say, what do you need? Even if it's just vent at me for half an hour. And that's pretty good, y'all. I hope that it can be carried through into, a post-COVID world. Also say, you're not getting them for free.
Yeah. You have a need for like appreciation for what you're offering.
Yeah, I have a need for finance.
Yes.
Because I need to pay for this computer.
That's one of the things, security, which can be financial security. Yeah, I think like in terms of that support, I think there's some people I think who will rush in and do the like poor you, pat, I love you, hearts, da. And quite the thing I've seen really powerful is when the need for understanding is met. When someone goes, like, I imagine this might be what's going on for you, and the person just goes, you get it. Oh my God. Like, and quite often that's sufficient. It's like to be known or like to be seen or heard is a really powerful thing that people don't necessarily need condolence. They have a need for like understanding for what's going on for them. Yeah. And that kind of then opens that doorway for them to find the strategies that are going to help them to meet those needs.
To have your situation recognized. Actually, I'm going to steal the spotlight again for a second, just give Ken a shout, because Ken has been a freaking super supportive and good human for me over the past couple of months. And I just want to shout you out to say I appreciate you. So there you go. Not getting anything else out of you.
I will point out, coming from like an Irish guy, I hope you appreciate just how deep that is.
Yeah, I've basically just proposed, so it's the equivalent. So there you go. Ken does seem pretty okay. Oh, bless you.
So I will say that some people were asking about like kind of resources and stuff.
Other resources for nonviolent communication. So Yoss says, what are good resources to research further into NVC? I think I need to put more time into it, as it can most likely help me in communication, especially at work. And Ken would also like a bit more info on it as well.
Yeah, to be honest, like I don't know the current stuff right now. A lot of the videos with, say, Marshall are quite old. He passed away 2017.
Okay.
And there's videos up from like before that. If you kind of Google Center for Nonviolent Communication, cnvc.org, they will direct you to stuff. There's two places that I don't have to do online training. There's the Bay Center NVC, I think, do some online training, and they're pretty like down to earth about it. A lot of my practice is about like a no bullshit approach to stuff, and some of this gets a little bit kind of like, oh, I'm feeling this and I have a need for this, and you just want to punch people. But
this is a very Irish approach.
Yeah, I know. So I think the Bay Area NVC do stuff if you kind of Google them, and I think Brooklyn NVC. There's a woman there, Dian Killian, Dian. I've met her. Her family's from Ireland, and she does some amazing work in Brooklyn, and actually did like a graphic novel I have somewhere in myself, that she gets that kind of no bullshit approach. So I think she wrote a book as well, which is pretty cool. So there's some good kind of book material. But in this day of Tinternet and video, I'm not sure what's out there. And some of it's a bit cheesy. Like I will flag one thing, because it's actually really helpful, but it looks really weird and cheesy. So Marshall kind of coined this concept of giraffe and jackal speak. So you might see some videos where he's using puppets of a jackal and a giraffe.
Everybody loves puppets.
Yeah. Jackal speak is the language we use that's kind of coded in blame, shame, guilt, evaluation, judgment. You should be doing this. You have to. You must. You can't. You can never. You always. It's that kind of stuff. It's not the observation, which is, when you said this versus when you lied to me. Subtle but important difference between those two statements. One keeps the channel of communication open. One immediately shuts it down because no one likes to receive that kind of be on the receiving end of an evaluation. So giraffe speak then is he used that to coin the term of when you speak from the heart, because giraffes as land mammals have the largest hearts. So the idea of like connecting with your heart and speaking from that place. So, and he kind of like, it's really interesting. They do this physical stuff as well with like exercises. So it becomes a kinesthetic experience where you move through a set of sequences where you try to have a conversation. And it's kind of like done as a role play thing. And it's really fascinating because it's almost like snakes and ladders. Like if you use evaluation or blame or judgment, it's like, go back to the beginning, start again. And because you're literally retraining your vocabulary. Our language just has so much of it in it. It's hard to kind of shake it off. And that's really fascinating to see it in practice.
If you pull it back to like the board games thing, it's the idea, and I have done this myself a lot. It's like the shelf of shame. It's just like, there's that pile of board games that, that you've bought, you've unwrapped, you've punched, but you've not played them yet. I'm not going to call it a shelf of shame anymore, because that, my friends, is a bad thing.
See,
it's just intrinsically a bad thing.
See, bad. So the observation.
What can I call it then?
So it's not even a shelf of opportunity. It's a shelf that contains games you haven't played yet. Like that's the do you know what I mean? That's the observable.
I love it. Sayers go for it. It's a shelf of opportunity. Like we're trying to be like positive about it. It's just like, it's a bunch of boxes of stuff. There you go.
But this is the thing that inherently, like, it's like a false dressing that can have its own impact and connotations because other people will react against it. The observable fact is it's a shelf with games on it that I haven't played yet. That's the, what's opportunity? Like, how do you record a shelf of opportunity unless you've labeled it? I mean,
how about this? Can it be a shelf of games I'd like to play?
Yeah. Like waiting to be played. Even that's kind of a bit weird. Like, it's a shelf of games. And
it's so freaking like, I mean, I get where you're coming from completely. It's just like it is the most observational description of a bunch of board games on a shelf. It's just like it's literally a bunch of games.
But it's weird because it's trying to like we can get ourselves tied up with those labels. So another thing Marshall used to say, and it kind of took a while to sink in, he had a song which was kind of, you can take or leave, but he used to say, when someone uses a label something, you can say, I'm some of this, I'm none of this, I'm all of this, and more. And I found that really, really fascinating and helpful. So it's like, I'm Rory, I'm the game designer. Well, I'm some of that, I'm none of it, I'm all of it, and more, because I'm all these other things as well. And so a label can never encapsulate the fullness of something, I think is part of that. So it's helpful to try to avoid labeling things if you can help.
It's merely an aspect.
It's like if you find it helpful for your own use, that's fine. It's when it gets kind of projected that onto others, or if you expect them to use it, then that can create difficulty. So I guess if you want to call it your shelf of opportunity or your shelf of shame, that's fine. It's just be mindful of what it means and what it's potentially accidentally evoking as well.
Interesting. Well, let's try and answer our question then. Rory, do games or can games make us happy?
No. So they can, again, like I'm going to be, and I probably sound really like pedantic, but I have to do it this way because I I don't have the skill for the nuanced way to talk about it. And I had someone kind of call me on that. They're like,
fine.
So I think games meet so many needs for me, and that's what I like about them. Do they make me happy? Sometimes, not all the time. Again, I'm not a huge fan of black and white evaluations.
Yeah, this cannot be a binary thing. I think it's definitely, as with most things, it's something that's going to be on a sliding scale.
Yeah. But even when I saw like the title for the session, I was like, oh, you know me, I'm always like, well, there's this little kind of gray area in here. So yes, I think they can evoke feelings of joy and happiness because they're meeting needs. It's like happy isn't the endpoint for it. It's just a cue to a need being met.
I'm down with that. That sounds like a good way to draw us to a close. This conversation went places I did not expect it to go. I'm going to say that. But I am here for it because I can guarantee you there's not going to be an awful lot of board game, podcast, chat channels, whatever we're going to call ourselves, that will go down into hardcore drilling into way past Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I've got to say, I was getting some flashbacks to university early on. So
there's two things before we wrap up that are in the comments. So I think, and I'm really, I'm not always great with remembering names. I'm mourning the fact that I don't remember names. Who? Same?
Sate. Sate, like Ksate.
Sate. Okay.
Like Kate, but with an S.
Yeah.
Just after the.
Okay. Sorry. Hi, Sate. So I think a big part of that kind of like over the topness is a cultural thing, which I know we struggle with, and I think sometimes our Danish friends struggle with as well. We've had in previous conversations, but again, there's that assumption of things being everything has to be kind of high energy, which I think I particularly find quite hard, being a lot more low key. I think this is also really interesting from Ken, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, a couple of people said it. I think Sate said it as well. I think like some of the needs that bring us like the most joy are our need to contribute, to be seen, to be valued, to matter. Like I think the need to matter is such a fundamental thing in human beings. So that's an example of where a game can bring joy. It's not the game itself, it's the fact that it gave you the opportunity to contribute to the kind of happiness or well-being of others as well. Sorry, that's lesson over.
No, that's good. I'm down with that. Cool. Okay. So yeah, this has been a good conversation, and I hope we'll have more along these lines in the future, because these are topics that deserve to be covered. A lot of places will not cover them. A lot of places will just go, hype the games, blah blah blah. But we're not like other places.
I think that's actually an interesting conversation, or like question I would put out to the chat, because I think we find it easier to go there than maybe others do. So is there like a topic along these lines or something that you'd love to kind of see? So particularly Michael and I and ex-guest explore or discuss, because we can try and make that happen.
Yeah, we can make calls. We can hurl people in at the last minute and try and grab them and stuff. If there are topics that you want us to cover, we'll do it. Just give us a shout. At We Are Hub Games is our overall social media, pretty much everywhere across the board, of course. Rory can be found at Rory O'Connor. And I, of course, am the sweet boy of international tabletop gaming.
So I got to bring this up.
I'm trying to work out what need I meet by calling myself the sweet boy of tabletop gaming.
See, I agree.
The serious side of Michael does not come out very often, it must be said.
No. I like it
Once
too.
in a while. Once in a while. The Egypt bit is often there, though.
Yeah, it's like you gotta dig through that to get down to the serious Michael.
This is very, very true. Cool. All right. We are out of here. Thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful, lovely people who joined us live. If you're watching on the YouTube catch-up, thank you very much as well. Do, leave comments, leave a like. Go and follow Jason's channel as well, please. Shelf Stories. Very, very good. The Shelf Help videos are particularly interesting as well. If you want to dig a little bit deeper into the stuff that we have been talking about today. Rory will be back tomorrow morning with Untold Adventures Await, episode 396.
26. Epic. It's epic at the moment.
It's getting big times. I am back on my own channel, of course, tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. After Rory's wrapped up. We're going to do a little bit more work on Project Pyramid, which is cool. And yeah, I just want to say that I appreciate all of you for joining us because, yeah, you're all good. You're all good, y'all.
So what's the observation, Michael? I'm going to hang up there.
We're out of here.
Yeah, talk to you later.
Time to wave. See you all later. Bye.